Hello everyone, I'm Chetan Dalvi. I'm from World Art Branding Conclave and I'm back with our new show. और जैसे हमने आपको बताया था, we always have some other artist और हमेशा अलग अलग countries के artist से मिलके उनके बारे में जान के हमें बहुत अच्छा लगता है. And today we have a very special guest from United States. His name is William, and we are going to know about his art journey and the life of an artist during the lockdown, how he's spending his days, and much more talks. So, without wasting any further time, let me just invite Mr. William.
Hello.
Sir, good evening.
Good evening.
How are you, sir?
I'm very well. Very well. It's a beautiful day here in Colorado.
Okay, and thank you very much for your time, giving us your time, and coming for this interview.
Yes.
Sir, we have to a lot of things with you, but before we start, I just request you if you can tell us about yourself and about a little bit about your art journey to all our viewers, please.
Certainly. Well, I was born and raised in Burlington, Wisconsin, which is a small town in southern Wisconsin in the USA. And I currently live in Boulder, Colorado. And my painting journey, my art journey started when I was in high school. And I had a art teacher that introduced me to the abstract expressionists, Willem de Kooning, Jackson Pollock, Franz Klein, and I became very interested in their work. And after my years as a teenager, and after I went to college, I really didn't paint or draw anymore. And then 16 years ago, in 2004, my wife, Mary Kay, and I were living in the Virgin Islands in the Caribbean. And I started to paint then again, and I started to paint colorful figures, women dancing, and they were paintings that were very popular in the Caribbean, but they just didn't do what I needed to do. And I was looking for something that was a painting that would make a difference. And so I wanted to really engage, motivate, and heal with my paintings, if that was possible, and try to figure out how I might do that. And so today, as an artist, I guess I would say the essence of my art is the exploration of the fundamental issues of our day. And there are things like injustice, intolerance, discrimination, addiction, violence, and war with its victims, witnesses, and survivors. And that has really been the focus of my art for some time.
Okay, that's so nice to know you, sir. And while we know that all of us are having this lockdown in our countries, so how's things are there?
Well, I've really been very busy, and I've been painting a lot, and I've been really spending a lot of time evaluating some of my older paintings and some paintings that I was supposed to be showing in the Middle East during this lockdown. I had a large show scheduled in Kuwait, and so I had more than 20 large paintings that suddenly I wasn't shipping overseas. And so I've been looking at them and studying them, and I believe that a painting is never done. And so when I had an opportunity to relook at these paintings, I've been making a lot of changes to them as well. And I've also been thinking about upcoming shows that I've got. I've got a show coming up in a year where I'll be staging many paintings in a church. And that's just perfect for what I'm trying to do, this sacred space for private reflection. I want people to really stand or sit in front of my paintings and and view them and understand what's going on and feel the emotion of the paintings. So I've been very busy with all of this during the lockdown.
That's great, sir. So, when exactly you have started this? What inspired you towards that, and what inspires you to keep going with that?
With that subject matter? Well, as I was working with this concept of victims, witnesses, and survivors, I kept pushing it, trying to get a greater emotional reaction. And I wasn't as focused maybe as I needed to be. Victims, witnesses, and survivors is quite broad. But some years ago, my sister passed away from a opiate drug overdose.
Sorry.
And that really crystallized my thinking and really caused me to be committed to this notion of affecting people. And at my shows, I frequently have people that say they started crying in front of the paintings, or possibly they would thank me for acknowledging them, or thank me for motivating them to maybe take some action with a family member. And that was very powerful. And that has really caused me to really continue to pursue this notion of victims, witnesses, and survivors. In fact, just a couple of years ago, I had a woman in a refugee camp in the Middle East contact me and say that she saw one of my paintings and she said, "I understood that you understood me." And she said, "You know that I want to die." And she was in a Syrian refugee camp. And she must have been looking at the painting on her cell phone. And she said that the next day when I looked at the painting, I saw hope in the woman's eyes, the woman that you had painted. And she understood that she too could have hope. And then she said that I saved her life. And that's pretty powerful for a painter. And it just drives me to continue what I'm doing with my art.
So that's such an inspiring things, and I'm sure all the viewers who are watching us now, they must be they want to see your paintings as well. So, William says we have a short video. So, to all the viewers, we are showing this video while we continue talking to Mr. William. But before that, as you guys have heard about the powerful paintings he makes, so let us see a short video of his wherein you know more about him. Just a moment. I'll just show this video.
I paint to make a difference. I want to be part of a larger conversation to engage, motivate, and heal. I want to be part of the solution. It's just who I am. As I see it, my job as an artist is to get you to think, ask questions, and then to act. So where do I start? Can I spark an honest discussion to help remove the stigma that covers up and hides issues? I know this means tackling the human condition with all of its suffering, as well as the perseverance, forgiveness, and love. And in the end, simply being affected doesn't cut it. It means getting help. It means allowing someone to help you. It means helping. The paintings are very much abstract paintings. I love this juxtaposition of abstract over parts that are very realistic. And so you've got a painting, maybe an abstract when you're close, and when you back up, you all of a sudden see the person that looks very real to you. So I'm always playing with color and line, and I like to spill paint right on my paintings. I like to move it around. And this is basically random events occur as a result of this. It's like a map, isn't it? It's like rivers in Alaska showing up on a map or on an aerial photograph. The drip on a painting may be random, but what I do with it is not. As artists, so many of us are looking for reality in some way. And so I guess I'm looking for the playfulness and the experimentation and the excitement of pouring paint and to move it around with my squeegee. And it's all part of the fun of, if this isn't fun, then why am I doing it? No, actually, that's interesting that I said that, because on the other hand, I think as an artist, I have a responsibility to speak to the times, and the times aren't necessarily fun. My paintings for the last 5 years have dealt with strong women, but also women that have probably one of these three characteristics. They're either a victim, they're a survivor, or they're a witness. And that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to do paintings that are of people that have had an experience in life.
So that was very powerful.
Mm, I agree.
So all the viewers, I'm sure you all must be got very emotional, and after seeing this video, must watch this video again. This is a beautiful video, and William sir has his own YouTube channel also. We are dropping the link in the comment section. Please go and see his video. And hats off to you, sir, for this
Thank you.
such a uh, displaying such a deep emotions through paints. It's very difficult. It's very difficult
Yes. It is a constant search to try to do better.
because the painting touches the. It's like they say the whatever every color and whatever you're saying, and the messages are through the paintings. It touches the heart,
Yes.
and I got very emotional while seeing the paintings.
Hmm.
So, but such paintings. So where do you sell? Because I'm sure all the galleries are not going to accept such paintings. So it's very powerful. And where exactly you sell such work?
Yes. Well, in the United States, my best market is in the Atlanta area,
Okay.
Atlanta, Georgia. And I think it has a lot to do with the gallery itself. They're very receptive to what I do and they understand it. And so they're able to adequately explain it to people. And my paintings aren't always the kind of paintings that someone wants to put above their dining room table or above their Davenport to decorate their home. And I don't try to do that. I have the greatest exposure for my paintings, and I hear the most about them typically when I'm in non-commercial settings, so in an art center or a museum or at a university. And I like those opportunities to place my work there and then to talk about it, to give presentations, to have panel discussions, and to actively work with the people that are viewing the painting. The Atlanta Gallery I mentioned also works some of that in, and so they're very good at that. And of course, I have other galleries where I sell work, but it takes a special person to buy a painting that is difficult like this, sometimes difficult to
True.
look at.
Absolutely agree.
Mhm.
Because this is not the, like the painting wherein you keep somewhere just to decorate the room. It gives a very powerful message.
Yes. Yes, and I think that's very important that people as art viewers or people who buy art that they become comfortable with going beyond the decorative the decorative part of a piece of art. Now, understand, I really appreciate and love much of the art which is fun to look at, is nice to look at, and is more decorative. And so I appreciate the skill that it takes to make that. But that's not where I'm at. I'm looking for my art to talk to you, to to talk to you so that you have an emotional response and you really internalize the message. And frequently, that message is not what I intended. So I may put something out there, and you may react to it in an emotional way, but over an entirely different issue. And that's good. The main thing is that you respond to it and then you talk to people about it as well. And that's the kind of powerful art that I'm looking to create.
That is very nice, and that's very inspirational for uh, many emerging artists who have this thought of creating and selling. But the kind of commitment you put it in your paintings, it's marvelous and it's very inspiring for all of us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Mhm.
Okay, sir, I want to ask you one more thing, one very important question which most of the artists have. What do you feel? Can artists survive only on the income of art, or they need some other income also?
Mhm. Well, first of all, let me tell you my experience. I had a very full and fulfilling career working in our business and working for National Geographic,
Oh,
and so when I left that, I didn't become a painter until I was 56 years old, and so I had a full career behind me, which I was able to retire from. And so it was easy for me then to paint the kind of paintings I do, which maybe didn't have the same market appeal because I could afford to do that. So I could afford to find my passion and follow it. That's more difficult for younger artists. And I get this question a lot. And I think that it's always helpful if an artist has maybe a career in the graphic arts, in web design, or in as an art teacher, and in a related field that allows them to have more income and then to share their passion through their art at the same time. And I think that's probably the easiest thing. I think it is it's a very special artist, and you're out there, but the very special person that it can immediately come out and do paintings and have a good income from that. And that's very possible, but there's risks with that. And the risks are whether the art market is up or down for the kind of work that they're doing. And then how much do they want to live on? Now, I know young people that are able to do that. But I would say that for most people starting out, it's helpful to have a day job. It's like people tell many musicians, they say, don't quit your day job.
Yes.
And you may have that big hit record, but it may not happen right away. And so you have to be willing to either sacrifice, or you have to be willing to do the work in conjunction with another job, or wait till you retire like I did.
Actually, and during this lockdown, there were many artists who were struggling financially because they have no other income. So there were many artists who were struggling financially during this period.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, sir, I'm sorry to ask you, but what's your age now?
I am 72.
Okay, 72.
And I'm just starting.
There is a lot of experience. And sir, do you feel that your experience with National Geographic has helped you to become this kind of to gather emotions and paint such things?
I honestly can't answer that. And that's another question people ask me frequently. And with National Geographic, I was in the mapping end of the business. And I did have one person say to me that I paint like a printmaker, and a printmaker creates prints much like a map maker makes maps. And so that was an interesting thing that I had never thought about. But when it comes to the passion, certainly with National Geographic, I traveled a great deal. And so I was exposed to a lot of people. I was exposed to a lot of people in instances that weren't ideal, that maybe I was able to think about. But I think more importantly, I had a whole lifetime of experiences to think about, and to think about people's misfortunes, and to think about war and tragedy and things of that sort, and also to see it through the eyes of other cultures. And I think that probably helped me.
Okay. And sir, how you the kind of powerful paintings you make. So, what runs through your mind when you're painting?
Nothing. And again, this is another question I get asked a lot. I just start painting, and
Yes.
and that's what comes out. And I'm certainly cognizant of issues of victims, witnesses, and survivors when I'm painting, but I don't try to make a painting where I say, I'm going to try to make this person look very sad, or I don't do that. It just comes out. Now, I think there's something going on in my head, but usually when I'm painting, I'm more, it's like I'm meditating when I'm painting. Now, when I go to assemble a show, one of the things I like to think of the gallery or museum walls as my ultimate canvas. And as I place paintings and the paintings interact with each other, I start to see more and more this victims, witnesses, and survivors as I see them all lined up. And so I think about how my shows are to be shown. And that's why with this upcoming show in a church, that's very important to me. And I think it's a perfect venue to see my paintings, to sit in front of them and reflect, not just to pass by, but to reflect and to think about the paintings. And so, I mean, I think that's where I start to think more and more about what I'm actually painting. But when I'm doing it, I'm not.
I agree. The church is going to be a very good place to exhibit such paintings, and I'm sure your painting reflects people to themselves.
Yes.
Absolutely, I agree on that, sir.
Yes.
So the big paintings you make, sir, how much time you take to make such big paintings?
It's all over the place. So sometimes I'll have one. So the one that you see, let's see, I'll get it here. Get my hand right because it's backwards. The one that's right behind me here. Okay, so that painting probably took me 10 hours. It was very quick. Other paintings might take me 60 or 70 hours or more. And I may look at the painting a year later if it's still in my studio, and I may work on it again. And so many of my paintings have layers and layers and layers of paint on them. And I keep reworking them. And then others, I say, okay, it's there we go, done now, like that painting there, which doesn't have a lot of layers. But I got it to that point and I said, I'm going to leave this one alone right now. I kind of like it. So it's all over the place. I can't predict it.
But what time? So do you have any particular time wherein you paint, or what is the schedule? Or
Yeah.
just
Okay. I don't always, but I try to paint every day. And it's hard for me to paint for more than 8 hours. It used to be. It wasn't so hard. But, I'm standing up, and after 8 hours of painting, I'm tired. But usually I'll start painting in the late morning, maybe 10 in the morning, and I'll stop and have lunch with my wife. And then in the afternoon, I'll paint again for another 4 or 5 hours. And that's pretty typical. And by 5 o'clock, I stop. And it's my time together with my wife, and our evening starts at 5 o'clock then. And so then we'll maybe have a glass of wine or some tea, and we might play a board game or something, and then watch the evening news. And so it's a pretty simple life. But I've got my painting time. And I turn on the painting switch at 10 in the morning, and I turn it off at 5 in the evening.
okay. And sir, you're such an experienced artist, and the kind of paintings you make makes people very emotional, touches the heart, as we have seen from the video and the painting even in your background. So, and I'm sure you must have seen the long journey of art because right now we have artists promoting themselves on social media, but that was not the case few years earlier. So I'm sure you have seen that decade also, wherein the artist has no market, but now the it has become one market. So how you see that change, which what you have to say about that?
Well, social media. Well, here's an interesting thing. It used to be when I first started out painting, and I would say, how can I get into a gallery? And what you were always told was, well, you never just walk into a gallery with your paintings, and you should always ask for an appointment. And I didn't do that. I just walked into the gallery with some paintings under my arm, rolled up and rolled them out, and said, you can tell me to leave, but if you just take 5 minutes and take a look at these, and if you're interested, I'll stay and we can talk about them. And if you're not, I'll just leave. So I tried that a little bit, and I actually got some galleries to pick me up. But then social media opened up a whole new world in terms of gallery representation, because I have multiple galleries now that contact me, and they found me on Instagram or Facebook or Ello, and that's where the discussion starts. And so that tends to be where galleries have found me. The other thing is, I think it's important to enter shows. And so I'm always looking for those art shows that are put on by good organizations, museums, universities, art centers that have good curators, and frequently they're guest curators. And I think it's important to get your work in front of them as well. And so that's another thing I try to do. I will try to enter into various shows that I'm interested in that are appropriate for my work, where I can put it in front of people that are interested, hopefully, in my work.
Okay, so sir, do you still believe that with the kind of technologies advancing, so do you see that one day it will come that people will not be exhibiting, only exhibiting online?
Well, I think that's a possibility. I think there's going to be a place for the long term for brick and mortar galleries. And for many buyers of art, the gallery is an important place for them, because the fact that the gallery owner has the piece of art and then can talk to the potential buyer about the art gives credibility to the art and the artist. So I think that editorial nature is important. However, that can also happen online. And so there are certainly online spaces that give some credibility to what the artist is doing and do some of what the brick and mortar art gallery is doing. Now, an interesting thing is many of these traditional brick and mortar art galleries are now selling a high percentage of their sales online. And so that's very important. I talked to a gallery the other day that said 70% of their sales are online. And so if people are willing to spend for expensive pieces of work to buy them online, that says an awful lot about how the market is changing. So yes, online is certainly growing. Will the brick and mortar, I mean, it's really fun to go in a brick and mortar gallery and to look at the work, but it's obvious that the online part of that business is growing.
Yes, because I feel that social media is a boom, sir. Because even I met you through social media only, and I'm thankful I did, and I could see your work, and I could request you to come on our platform and share about your art journey. Because when we uh, meet artists like you and all the artists we interact, we always have something to learn. And the kind of paintings you do, I'm sure all the readers are, all these viewers have got emotional with after seeing your paintings.
Yes, well, thank you.
And so one more thing, what you see as a challenge as an artist, not in terms of selling it, uh, maybe creating it, and because a lot of artists complain that art materials, there's a lot of investment. They have to first invest in the materials, then the time investment is there, then they have to persuade to galleries for keeping their art and selling it, so it
Yeah.
takes a lot of investment. So what maybe you can say from the perspective of your country, what any challenges you face, or maybe you have any government support as an artist?
Hmm. Well, certainly getting into galleries is always a process that takes a lot of time for an artist. And unless the galleries are coming to you via social media, it's very difficult to be making contact, and a lot of galleries say no to a lot of artists. And so that's a difficult process, I think,
Yeah.
for artists to get used to. And um, having a great social media presence or having an agent while working for you certainly is an advantage. in my case, I do an awful lot myself, but I'm very open to um, uh, activities that promote my art through venues like yours, which is really wonderful, and I think really help the artists to get involved with people like yourself. Um, you know, I've made the investment already in materials, and I've got a big storehouse of materials and paints and supplies, and so that's no longer a challenge for me. But one of the key challenges is to keep fresh and so for instance, what am I doing? I'm painting big faces, and I always paint a big face, same context, same size canvas, and so how do I make that different? So for me, the challenge is, how do I keep improving what I'm doing? How do I have a greater emotional response? How do I create a better piece of art that gets my message across, but not have it be static, to be able to continually come up with new ideas and new techniques, but still with just this face in that canvas? And how do I keep doing that? And I've got ways that I do that. I love art history. And so I love to look at what other artists do, whether it's Francis Bacon or Pablo Picasso and Giacometti and Marlene Dumas, and to look at these artists and say, well, here's a technique they're using, and they may not be doing faces, but how can I incorporate some of what they are doing into my process? And that's fun. And it's always an experimentation. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But if I can learn something from another artist and not copy that artist, but learn from them, and then also to try to think about how that artist thinks. And that's helped me a lot. So art history has been very important to my journey in art.
Okay. And sir, I've come back to the same question about how's the government supporting? Do you have any government support in some form for the artists?
Well,
Because in some countries, their government are supporting in some ways.
Right. And well, it's interesting. So as a retired person, I am not eligible for that kind of support. But I do know that, for instance, in our local community, there are avenues, there are funds available to support artists. And certainly depending on an artist, in terms of our federal government, the US government, I'm not exactly certain. I think it depends on technically what their job was, and if they were working for a company, let's say as a graphic artist, well then they can probably be seeing some support. But there are benefits out there, and I'm sure there's many that I haven't even thought about because I wasn't eligible for them.
Okay. And sir, do you teach art right now to someone?
No, I do not. And I have always been very open to people coming and drawing or painting with me, and talking about their learning. But I don't teach classes, and I get asked to do that a lot. And I don't like being tied down to a schedule in my studio. However, I will say this: there are multiple secondary schools in and around our community, and I'm always available to teach there, say for a week. So I'll teach at a school for a week, or I'll teach for a few days, and so I always make myself available to that. And typically, what I do is I don't talk about necessarily here's how you draw a face or draw eyes, but I'll talk a lot about how do you find your voice? How do you find out what you're passionate about? And then how do you incorporate that into your art? Are you experimenting with your art? Are you willing to pour paint on a canvas and see where it goes? Are you taking chances with your art? And so that I really enjoy doing, and that's something that I can do that maybe the existing teachers aren't teaching. This how to be free, how to have passion about what you're doing, and so that's what I tend to teach when I do.
That's great, sir. And please tell us something about your family. Anyone else in your family is an artist, or only you?
Only me. And so I grew up in Burlington, Wisconsin, and there were five children in the family, and I was the oldest, and I enjoyed art, but no one else in the family, everybody, almost all of my siblings have enjoyed drawing, but nobody became an artist. And um, now I live in Boulder, Colorado, with my wife, Mary Kay, and our son, Gregory, however, is a archaeologist, and he is interested. He's in ancient Roman archaeology and history, and he is an on-the-ground archaeologist and a professor at the University of Maryland, which is just outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay. So you have not taught art to anyone in your family also?
Well, I would draw a little bit with my son, but no, I haven't.
Okay.
No, actually, my wife, however, is a very accomplished hand weaver, and that's art, um,
Yes.
she has done some really wonderful pieces with her hand weaving, and so I guess I shouldn't have said that in the beginning, that there were no other family members. I was just thinking strictly of my family growing up, but my wife is a very accomplished weaver.
Okay. We would love to see her art also someday.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Okay, sir. How you see art? How you connect it as a spirituality? Because as you also mentioned about when you make art, there are no thoughts in you have no thoughts. It's just blank and you just make art. So how you see connect to art and spirituality?
Mhm. Well, there are certainly artists that have a spiritual nature to their art, where they're actively um, a- attempting to show something of a spiritual nature. And, you know, I'm not doing that in my art, but, in terms of having symbols and such. But I have no doubt, depending on how you define, the spiritual nature of it, um, I have to be one with my art, right? And so uh, I'm doing something in some ways that I don't really understand about the art, and I guess I'm not attempting to either. So I know there's a spiritual aspect to it, but it's not something that I even think about.
Because the kind of art you make. So I thought, I'm sure you must be thinking about something about being a spiritual person, because there are many people who just paint something and they think they're spiritual. But kind of art you make, it's much more powerful than the other art I have seen of the same
Yes,
kind.
yes.
And so, uh, any message I would like to you want to give to all the people who are starting out as an artist?
Sure. And here is what I tell people when I get that same question. I say, stick with what resonates with you, paint what you're passionate about. And that's your voice. So people talk so much about painting, finding your voice. So what are you passionate about? What resonates with you? Speak for those who can't speak for themselves. I think that's for me, that's very important. And then study art history. I think there's so much to be learned, and there's probably nothing that's new. Artists have been doing so many things, and so many artists have been working in a way that I work. And so I kind of try to carve out my little space that's different. But I can learn so much from these other artists. And then if you're a young artist starting out, don't quit your day job. Oh, and actually, I have one other thing too. Learn to draw. Learn to draw the human figure. That was advice that I was given very early on, because the human figure is the hardest thing to draw. And so because if you draw a tree, if you get a limb wrong on a tree, nobody notices. If you get a limb wrong on a body, everyone notices. And so it really causes you to look and to see and to develop hand-eye coordination. And I think that's really important.
That's a very nice advice. I'm sure all the viewers who are watching us live now, they will agree to that, sir. And so, what exactly the kind of colors you use and which materials you use and where you paint exactly? It's on a canvas or
Yes.
other mediums also.
No, I exclusively paint on canvases. And that
Okay.
canvas you see behind me, that is 7 feet tall. That is roughly an 80-inch canvas. And frequently I paint on unstretched canvases, and I'll do that if I'm shipping a lot of paintings to like Kuwait. And so I can roll them up and put them in a tube, and I'll paint on the unstretched canvases. But probably more often than not, I paint on already stretched canvases. Then my paints, I use acrylic paints, and I use, in fact, I'll show you, I use
Yes, please.
I use exclusively, get it over there, Golden brand fluid paints. And the only reason I use that brand is because I'm familiar with them. And so when I look at cadmium red, I know what to expect. And so that's the reason I'm doing that. And then I use large brushes. I use squeegees. I use paper towels, sponges. I have various scraping tools. And I have little buckets that I use that I pour paint with. And then I use oil pastels, which I will make lines with on the drawings or on the paintings. And so my paintings have this buildup of not just spilled paint, but of lines and scrapes and scratches and drips that I'm applying to the paint, or I'm applying to the painting.
So can you show that canvas, this paint once again?
The one that's behind us, or the paint? I'm sorry.
No, you just shown something. Yes, this one, sir. Yes.
So that's fluid acrylic paint, and for paint colors that I use more frequently, or I use a lot of, like white and black, I will use. I'll buy it by the gallon, so I can buy this paint. This is 16 fluid ounces, but I can buy it by the gallon as well, which I will do. And then, well, the other paint I like to use is my paintings have a lot of metallic paint in them. So there's gold and silver and bronze metallic paints. And so you can buy acrylic fluid paints in those gold and silver metallic colors. I'll show you some. Here's iridescent silver metallic paint. And so I use a lot of that as well. And I'll frequently mix it with water, and I'll water it down, and it gives these very nice track marks on the painting that I like. And then I can choose whether I want to keep it or not. And so when you experiment, one of the interesting things about experimenting with paint is that you can create a drip, and it can be very random. But what you do with it is not random, and it is not an accident at that point, because then you decide that a certain flow of paint, oh, that really looks good. That really works well with my painting. And so then I keep it. And so then that's my artist's decision. It's no longer random.
So we would love to see you giving us a demo painting someday.
Well, that could be arranged.
Please do that, sir. We all would love to see. And the kind of information you share selflessly, I'm sure it's going to be helpful for a lot of people who are watching this video.
Excellent. Good.
So we are short of answer, but we are loving to talk to you. But last one quick question. So what are any future plans you have?
Okay. Well, I'm continuing doing faces, and uh, the big show coming up next is the show in the church, and so I'm really thinking that through and thinking about how I want the paintings positioned, and also when I do a show like that, I also like to write about it, and it puts my ideas down, and it helps me confirm my ideas, and then it also provides something for someone else to understand what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. So I'm working on that next show.
So I just request कि whenever it's your next show, please keep us updated. So we could cover you live that time also and show the painting. Try to show the paintings if to our all the audience also here.
Well, that would be fun to do. I will keep in touch.
Please do that, sir.
I just wrote it down. Great, thank you.
You have our contact details. Please stay in touch. Anyways, we'll stay in touch with you because we want to see you doing demo and want to continue talking to you. And I somewhere believe that the kind of experience you have and the things you share, we would like to have one more interview with you. Maybe
Sure.
whenever you're free, we will do that, and maybe we can talk uh, on your painting, especially
Yes.
the idea behind that, because that was very beautiful thoughts you have behind that, and maybe we can see you doing a demo. That would be great, sir.
Okay, excellent.
So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your time and all the patience you extended, and you have taken us time from your busy schedule. Love to see your art, and I'm sure that your art is going to change most of us who have seen your art, and it's very inspiring. And may you keep inspiring people and touching lives with your work, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Sure.
So, guys, this was William, and I love to see her work. Kitna dedication, and at his age, what he's doing it, and all the experiences he has, and he's such a committed and kind-hearted person who has shared so many things with us. I'm sure this is one of the best episodes we have covered today. I thank you for all the love you have shown, and हम ऐसे ही आपके सामने और भी आर्टिस्ट लाते रहेंगे और कीप वॉचिंग अस थैंक यू वेरी मच